In a merciless galaxy crushed under the boot of the mind-controlling Malone Empire, human resistance burns defiantly as the last ember of free will. Sergeant Marcus Harris slips through the shadows at the heart of the alien regime, leading a squad of humanity's finest on a desperate mission to unravel the secrets behind the Malon's iron mental grip. Infiltrating the lavish chambers of the Zephyrian Palace, the human operatives hide in plain sight among the sycophantic thralls of 100 enslaved races. Beneath a facade of subservience, they probe for any chink in the Malon's psychic armor, driven by the startling realization that humanity alone remains unshackled by the oppressor's insidious powers. Every moment within the Malon court is a nerve-shredding gamble as the Emperor's spy master, Antares, scrutinizes the human interlopers with growing suspicion. Marcus can feel the alien's invasive psychic tendrils slithering against his mental defenses, knowing a single crack could doom his team and humanity's last hope. But the stakes climb even higher when intercepted communications reveal the Malon's horrific endgame: to scour humanity from the stars, eradicating the last threat to their dominion once and for all. As the sands of time slip through the humans' fingers, Marcus and his soldiers must turn the tyrant's greatest weapon against them, fanning the faint embers of resistance among the downtrodden. In a universe where the Malon hold every card, human grit and guile may prove the wild card that reshuffles the cosmic deck. With humanity's fate on the line, Marcus knows that navigating this knife's edge between submission and sedition is a mission his species cannot afford to fail. For if the Malon nightmare is to end, it will be human soldiers who awaken the galaxy to the dream of freedom once more. As the humans solidified their cover in the Malon court, Chancellor Zelor watched them with a shrewd eye. He didn't suspect their true nature, but saw in them potential pawns for his own machinations against rival factions. Zelor approached Marcus after a court session, his voice smooth as silk. "You've adapted well to life here. I could use talents like yours." Marcus fought to keep his expression neutral as revulsion churned in his gut. He knew he walked a razor's edge. One false move could expose them all. "You honor me, Chancellor. My only wish is to serve the Empire." Zelor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course, but there are many ways to serve. We must talk more." As Zelor glided away, Marcus clenched his fists. The game grew more dangerous by the day, and Antares was watching, always watching. The spy master's probing mind felt like oily tendrils sliding over Marcus's thoughts. One crack in his mental armor could doom them all. That danger took stark form when Antares made a chilling display of Malon power. Before the assembled court, the spy master dragged forward Lyria, the Kalari diplomat who had shown subtle signs of resisting the Malon's control. With a mere gesture, Antares forced Lyria to kneel, her face contorting in anguish as she fought his psychic dominance. "Confess your treachery," Antares hissed. "Declare your loyalty to the Emperor." Lyria shuddered, tears streaming down her face. I am loyal," she choked out. "I live to serve the Emperor. My thoughts are treason. I beg punishment." As the court jeered and Lyria wept, Marcus trembled with barely leashed fury, his squeezing hard. In that moment, the fight became personal. He silently vowed to free Lyria and every slave of Malon tyranny. But to do that, they needed allies. Marcus and his team began reaching out to those few who showed flickers of resistance, meeting in shadowed corridors and secluded chambers. Tharog, a battle-scarred Corvan warrior, was the first they approached. "You fight the Malon in your mind," Marcus murmured as he passed Tharog in a palace hall. "You're not alone." Tharog's eyes narrowed. "Speak carefully, human. Such talk is death." "What is life without free will? We can teach you to shield your thoughts, to resist." Tharog met Marcus's gaze, conflict raging behind his eyes. "Show me." And so, in clandestine sessions, the humans began to build a resistance beneath the Malon's very noses. They demonstrated mental techniques to wall off intrusive probes, to bury rebellious thoughts beneath a veneer of obedience. Tharog and a handful of others took to the training with unshakable focus. Olivia gave a curt nod of approval after one session. They're learning fast, but we need more than a few if we're going to pull this off. Jake rubbed his jaw. It's a start, but we need intel too. The Emperor's plans, defenses, command structure. Without that, we're fighting blind. Leave that to me, Alex said. The tech specialist had been working tirelessly to worm his way into the Malone's computer network. Just buy me a little more time. But time turned out to be a luxury they didn't have. During a deep data dive into Malone's systems, Alex tripped a hidden security protocol. Alerts blared as he frantically tried to cover his tracks and purge the data. Alex, Marcus shouted over comms. Alex, report! They're on to me, Alex panted. The staccato bark of pulse rifle fire sounded in the background. Data wipe in progress, but they're almost through the door. We're coming to you, Marcus said, already charging down the corridor with Jake and Olivia on his heels. Just hold on. Negative, Alex's voice was strained. Data wipe almost complete. You can't compromise the mission. This is my choice. Alex, no, Olivia cried. Wipe complete. Go. Remember me. A burst of pulse fire, a defiant yell, then silence. Marcus slammed a fist into the wall, his chest heaving. Alex had given his life to protect their cover, to buy them a chance. He wouldn't let that sacrifice be in vain. In the following days, Marcus, Jake, and Olivia threw themselves into the mission with a newfound purpose. They pushed their Malon resistance recruits harder, drilling them mercilessly, and they redoubled their own efforts to gather critical intel. Their digging uncovered the true scope of the Malon's plan for humanity's destruction. A hidden shipyard, Jake breathed, poring over stolen schematics. They're building a damn armada to wipe us out. Then we hit them first, Marcus growled, and we make it hurt. As the Emperor's Ascendance Day approached and Malon egos swelled with the festivities, Chancellor Zelor made his move. He cornered Marcus in a deserted hall. You want to hurt the Malon? He murmured. What if I help you eliminate my rivals? 'Cause a little chaos in the court? You back my bid for power, and I'll be in a position to change things. Marcus fought down bile. Allying with this snake went against everything he believed in, but he couldn't deny the need for an inside edge. I'm listening, he said, already beginning to plot how he'd stick a knife in Zelor's back when the time was right. Ascendance Day loomed like a coming storm, the fulcrum on which the fate of worlds would turn. Under the cover of the celebrations, Marcus and his team smuggled in weapons, coordinated with rebel cells, and laid the groundwork for a plan as audacious as it was desperate. As the Malon drank and reveled, secure in their superiority, the hunters became the hunted. The seeds of their destruction took root in every servant who slipped a blade into a secret pocket, every slave who whispered the word freedom like an illicit prayer. The reckoning was coming, and at the heart of the storm, a handful of human soldiers prepared to light the spark that would set the galaxy ablaze. The Ascendance Day celebrations engulfed the Zephyrian Palace in a whirlwind of opulence and excess. Beneath the veneer of revelry, Marcus, Jake, and Olivia orchestrated their daring plan with clockwork precision. As the Malon elite indulged in their decadence, human operatives and newly recruited allies slipped through the shadows, smuggling weapons and equipment to predetermined locations throughout the sprawling complex. Marcus adjusted his formal attire, steeling himself for the most crucial performance of his life. An attendant ushered him into Emperor Calavar's private audience chamber, a cavernous room draped in shimmering fabrics and adorned with priceless artifacts from 100 conquered worlds. The Emperor sat upon a crystalline throne, his ancient eyes gleaming with malevolent intelligence. Marcus dropped to one knee, bowing his head in feigned subservience. Rise, human, Calavar's voice reverberated through the chamber. Few outsiders earn the privilege of my personal attention. Marcus stood, meeting the Emperor's gaze. I am honored beyond words, Your Eminence. Calavar's lips curled into a predatory smile. Are you now? Let us see what lies beneath that carefully constructed facade of yours. The air grew thick with psychic energy as the Emperor's mind probed against Marcus's defenses. Marcus gritted his teeth, imagining impenetrable walls around his thoughts, while projecting an aura of awe and submission. Fascinating, Calavar mused. Your kind possesses a unique, resilience. We exist only to serve the glory of the Malon Empire, Marcus replied, his tone carefully modulated. The Emperor laughed, a chilling sound devoid of mirth. Oh, I think not. Your species is a thorn in my side, one I intend to pluck out root and stem. As Calavar began to expound on his plans for humanity's annihilation, Marcus surreptitiously activated the recording device concealed within his ceremonial sash. The Emperor's ego swelled as he detailed the might of his hidden armada, oblivious to the way Marcus was drinking in every scrap of strategic information. Meanwhile, Jake crouched in a maintenance conduit, fingers flying across a datapad as he wormed his way deeper into the palace's security systems. Sweat beaded on his brow as he raced against time, disabling fail-safes and creating digital backdoors for their rebel allies. In a high tower overlooking the grand ballroom, Olivia peered through the scope of her pulse rifle. Her breath was steady, her aim true as she systematically eliminated key Milan loyalists with silent, precise shots. Each target fell without raising alarm, sowing confusion among the increasingly paranoid Milan elite. The air crackled with tension as the appointed hour drew near. Marcus excused himself from the Emperor's presence, his mind racing as he made his way towards the rendezvous point. The corridors buzzed with drunken laughter and sycophantic chatter, masking the sound of Marcus's pounding heart. A thunderous explosion rocked the palace foundations. Alarms blared as rebel forces stormed the complex from multiple entry points. Tharog led a contingent of newly freed slaves, their eyes blazing with righteous fury as they turned on their former masters. Chancellor Zelor intercepted Marcus amidst the chaos, his face twisted with malice. "Did you really think you could outmaneuver me, human?" he snarled. "Antares knows everything. Your pathetic rebellion ends here." Marcus's fist connected with Zelor's jaw, sending the Malon reeling. "No more games," Marcus growled. "No more lies." The two grappled viciously, crashing through priceless artifacts and overturning banquet tables. Zelor's alien strength gave him an edge, but Marcus fought with the desperate intensity of a man with everything to lose. A well-placed strike to Zelor's throat left the Chancellor gasping. Marcus seized the opening, driving his opponent to the ground with a flurry of punishing blows. As Zelor lay broken and defeated, Marcus turned his attention to the fleeing Emperor. He spotted Jake and Olivia fighting their way through a phalanx of royal guards, converging on Calavar's personal shuttle. Marcus sprinted to join his team, dispatching Malon soldiers with brutal efficiency. They reached the shuttle's boarding ramp just as Emperor Calavar ascended, flanked by his most elite protectors. "It's over, Calavar!" Marcus shouted, leveling his weapon at the Malon leader. The Emperor's eyes blazed with hatred. "You insolent speck!" he snarled. "I will crush your mind to dust!" A wave of psychic force slammed into Marcus, threatening to overwhelm his defenses. He staggered, fighting to maintain his grip on reality as Calavar's will battered against his consciousness. Jake and Olivia engaged the Emperor's guards, their weapons fire providing crucial moments of distraction. Marcus gathered his perseverance, pushing back against Calavar's mental assault with every ounce of his human tenacity. "Impossible," Calavar hissed, his composure cracking. Marcus advanced, step by agonizing step. "You underestimated us," he said through gritted teeth. "That was your final mistake." With a primal yell, Marcus lunged forward. His vibroblade pierced Calavar's chest, driving deep into the Malon tyrant's black heart. The Emperor's eyes widened in disbelief, then went dark as his ancient body crumpled to the deck. A psychic shockwave rippled outward, shattering the Malon's control over their enslaved armies. Across the galaxy, a chorus of liberated minds rose in triumph as the seeds of rebellion burst into glorious bloom. Marcus stood over the Emperor's corpse, his blade dripping with ichor. Jake and Olivia flanked him, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "We did it," Olivia breathed. "We actually did it." But even as the first cries of victory echoed through the palace, Marcus knew their work was far from finished. The Malon Empire lay in ruins, but the task of rebuilding a free galaxy loomed large. New challenges awaited, and humanity's role in shaping the future had only just begun. Marcus lowered his vibroblade, the Emperor's ichor still dripping from its edge. The silence that followed Calavar's death was deafening, broken only by the distant sounds of battle echoing through the palace corridors. "We need to move," Jake said, his voice tight with urgency. "This is just the beginning." Olivia nodded, already scanning the hangar for potential threats. "The power vacuum we've created, it's going to be chaos out there." As if on cue, Marcus's comm unit crackled to life. Therog's voice came through, strained and breathless. "Marcus, we've secured the central command hub, but Loyalist forces are regrouping in the eastern quadrant. We need direction." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He'd trained for combat, for resistance, but not for this. "Hold your position, Therog. We're on our way." The next hours passed in a blur of tactical decisions and firefights. Marcus and his team raced through the labyrinthine palace, coordinating with rebel cells and newly liberated slaves. They fought not just against die-hard Malin loyalists, but against the tide of anarchy threatening to engulf everything they'd fought for. As the Zephyrian sun rose on a new era, Marcus stood before a hastily assembled council of rebel leaders. Therog and Lyria flanked him, their faces etched with exhaustion and hope. "The Malin Empire has fallen," Marcus began, his voice carrying across the room. "But our work is far from finished. We must act quickly to fill the power void before opportunists and warlords tear the galaxy apart." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. A Dokalan representative, his scales filled with almost unchecked rage, stepped forward. "And what of justice? The Malin butchered billions of my people. They must pay." Marcus met the Dokalan's gaze. "Justice will come, but not through blind vengeance. We need to build something better than what we've torn down." The debate raged for hours. Marcus advocated for a coalition leadership council, with representatives from all major races. It was a delicate balancing act, tempering calls for retribution with the need for stability. As the council adjourned, Jake approached Marcus, his face grim. "We've got a problem. Our intel suggests that Antares, the Malon spy master, slipped away during the chaos. He's already rallying remnants of the Empire." Olivia joined them, her fingers dancing across a datapad. "It gets worse. We're picking up chatter about a hidden Malon warfleet. If Antares gets his hands on that kind of firepower..." Marcus's mind raced, weighing options. "We need to split up. Jake, I want you and Olivia leading strike teams to hunt down these Malon holdouts. I'll focus on keeping the coalition together and building a new galactic order." Over the following weeks, Marcus threw himself into the monumental task of galactic reconstruction. He mediated disputes between former enemies, coordinated relief efforts for war-torn worlds, and worked tirelessly to transform the Resistance's mental shielding techniques into a galaxy-wide network of anti-Malon defense forces. But for every step forward, there seemed to be 2 steps back. Reports flooded in of rogue Malon warlords seizing control of resource-rich systems. Worlds freed from centuries of oppression erupted into civil strife. The Coalition Council fractured along ideological lines, with hardliners like Krevax of the Dokala pushing for harsh reprisals against all Malone, while moderates preached reconciliation. Marcus found himself pulled in 1,000 directions at once. He spent days negotiating trade agreements and nights poring over intelligence reports of Antares' growing shadow empire. The strain began to show, dark circles forming under his eyes, his movements becoming sharp and tense. One evening, as Marcus stood alone on a balcony overlooking the sprawling capital, Lyria approached. The former Malon thrall's eyes held a wisdom beyond her years. "You carry a great burden, Marcus," she said softly. Marcus sighed, his shoulders sagging. "I never wanted this. I'm a soldier, not a politician." Lyria placed a hand on his arm. "Perhaps that is exactly why you must lead. You've seen the horrors of domination firsthand. You understand the price of freedom." Her words struck a chord in Marcus. He thought of the countless worlds still reeling from Malon oppression, of the fragile alliances threatening to crumble under the weight of old hatreds. "We can't simply replace one tyrant with another," Marcus said, determination hardening in his voice. "We need to build something truly new." Lyria nodded, her eyes shining. Then show us the way, Marcus. Lead us into a future where no race need fear domination again. As if in answer to her words, Marcus's comm unit chimed. Jake's voice came through, tense and urgent. Marcus, we've got confirmation. Antares is gathering his forces for a major offensive. This is it. Marcus straightened, his face hardened. The galaxy stood at a precipice, teetering between a new age of cooperation and a descent back into tyranny. He knew the choices he made in the coming days would shape the course of galactic history. Understood, Marcus replied, his mind already formulating plans. It's time we showed Antares and his followers that humanity's resistance was just the beginning. We're going to forge a galaxy where freedom isn't just a dream. It's the foundation of everything we build. Build. Marcus's words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of responsibility. The calm was shattered by the piercing wail of alarms. Jake burst into the room, his face ashen. We've got multiple bogies incoming. It's Vortak's fleet. Marcus sprinted to the command center, his mind racing. The tactical displays showed a swarm of Malon warships descending on Rylith Prime. Before he could bark out orders, the first impacts shook the building. Outside, the sky erupted in fire. Orbital bombardments rained down on the city, reducing entire blocks to rubble. Hunter-killer drones darted through the smoke, their energy weapons cutting down fleeing civilians with ruthless precision. Get me a direct line to our defense grid, Marcus shouted over the chaos. But it was too late. The Milan attack had caught them flat-footed, their own ships scattered across the sector. As Marcus coordinated what meager defenses they had, a commotion erupted behind him. Krivak stormed into the command center, flanked by a group of armed Dokalan. This is what comes of your weakness, human, Krivak snarled. While you prattled about peace, the Malon prepared for war. Marcus whirled to face the enraged alien. We don't have time for this, Krivak. Every moment we waste... No more of your excuses. Krivak leveled a weapon at Marcus. You and your kind are unfit to lead. Step down now, or we'll remove you by force. The room froze, tension crackling. In that moment of indecision, another wave of explosions rocked the building. Marcus locked eyes with Jake, a silent understanding passing between them. You want to lead, Krivak? Marcus said, his voice low and dangerous. Fine. Show me your plan to save these people. Krivak faltered, caught off guard by the human's sudden acquiescence. As the Dokalan turned to bark orders at his followers, Jake made his move. In a blur of motion, he disarmed Krivak and his guards. Enough! Marcus roared, silencing the room. This is exactly what Vortak wants, to divide us against each other. We fight together or we die alone. Chastened, Krivak lowered his head. What would you have us do? Marcus turned to the tactical display, his mind racing. We need to hit them where they're vulnerable. Jake, get me Lyria. Minutes later, Lyria's hologram flickered to life. Her eyes widened as she took in the destruction visible behind Marcus. By the stars! What's happened? Vortak's made his move, Marcus said grimly. Lyria, I need you and your team for a special operation. It's high risk, but it might be our only shot at turning this around. As Marcus outlined his plan, Lyria's expression hardened with perseverance. We'll do it, she said simply. For freedom. Marcus nodded, his throat tight. For freedom. The next hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. As Lyria's team infiltrated Vortak's flagship, Marcus coordinated the ground defense, rallying every able body to protect the fleeing civilians. Then, without warning, a blinding flash lit up the sky. The Malon fleet erupted in a chain of antimatter explosions, shockwaves rippling through space. Victory, but at a terrible cost. In the aftermath, Marcus stood amid the rubble of what had been the Coalition's seat of power. A somber Jake approached, cradling something in his arms. Sir, Jake said softly, it's Lyria. Marcus's heart sank as he took in Lyria's broken form. He gathered her close, ignoring the ache of his own wounds. As he held her, the true weight of their struggle crashed down upon him. She believed in us, Marcus whispered, in what we could become. Jake placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we honor her by seeing it through. Marcus nodded, gently laying Lyria's body down. He stood, his eyes scanning the devastated skyline. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but humanity's resilience had carried them this far. Now it would forge a new future for the galaxy. "Gather the council," Marcus said, his voice steady. "It's time we showed the universe what true freedom looks like."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.